Hi, third graders. Let's read a little bit of the one and only Ivan. So when we last left Ivan, we'd learned a little bit about his friend Julia. And now we're going to learn even more about Ivan and the people who surround him. So this next chapter, if you're following along in your own book, I'm on page 19. And the title of this chapter is called Shapes in Clouds. I think I've always been an artist. Even as a baby, still clinging to my mother, I had an artist's eye. I saw shapes in the clouds and sculptures in the tumbled stones at the bottom of a stream. I grabbed at colors, the crimson flower just out of reach, the ebony bird streaking past. I don't remember much about my early life, but I do remember this. Whenever I got the chance, I would dip my fingers into cool mud and use my mother's back as a canvas. She was a patient soul, my mother. And that this part, when I get to this, it always reminds me of this game I used to play with my mom. And I wonder if you've ever done something similar, where I would be trying to get to sleep and she'd be trying to get me to go to sleep, and I always had a hard time going to sleep. And sometimes we would play a game where I would draw a picture on her back and she would try to guess what it was, and then we would switch and she would draw a picture on my back, and then sometimes we would do words like spelling words and stuff. And it sounds like this is what sweet little Ivan used to do, except he used mud. um, and he would use his mother's back as a canvas. Isn't that beautiful? And it also tells you, it confirms our idea from yesterday that Ivan did live in the wild once, before the exit ate Big Top. Next chapter, imagination. Someday, I hope I can draw the way Julia draws, imagining worlds that don't yet exist. I know what most humans think. They think gorillas don't have imaginations. They think we don't remember our past or ponder our futures. Come to think of it, I suppose they have a point. Mostly I think about what is, not what could be. I've learned not to get my hopes up. I wonder about that phrase. I've learned not to get my hopes up. I want you to pause here and think, what hopes do you think Ivan is not getting up? What hopes would a gorilla have? A gorilla who is stuck at a circus that never travels, without gorilla friends. What do you suppose he hopes for? Think about that, and we'll come back to that a little later. This next chapter is quite a sad title. It's called The Loneliest Gorilla in the World. When the Big Top Mall was first built, it smelled of new paint and fresh hay, and humans came to visit from morning till night. They drifted past my domain like logs on a lazy river. Lately, a day might go by without a single visitor. Max says he's worried. He says I'm not cute anymore, and he says, Ivan, you've lost your magic. You've lost your magic, old guy. You used to be a hit. It's true that some of my visitors don't linger the way they used to. They stare through the glass, they cluck their tongues, they frown while I watch my TV. He looks lonely, they say. Not long ago, a little boy stood before my glass, tears streaming down his smooth red cheeks. He must be the loneliest gorilla in the world, he said, clutching his mother's hand. At times like that, I wish humans could understand me the way I can understand them. It's not so bad, I wanted to tell the little boy. With enough time, you can get used to almost anything. Mm, so sad. I wonder what that little boy was thinking. Maybe what some of you think about animals in captivity, that they should be out in the wild where they belong. And it just seems to overcome this little boy, didn't it? Okay, did you notice how he said that visitors, they frown when they notice that all Ivan's doing is watching his television? Isn't it funny Ivan has a TV? I've never seen a TV in an animal habitat at the zoo. Have you? So this next title is called TV. Let's learn more about what Ivan watches. My visitors are often surprised when they see the TV map put in my domain. They seem to find it odd, the sight of a gorilla staring at tiny humans in a box. But sometimes I wonder, isn't the way they stare at me, sitting in my tiny box, just as strange? My TV is old. It doesn't always work, and sometimes days will go by before anyone remembers to turn it on. I'll watch anything, but I'm particularly fond of cartoons. Their bright jungle colors. I especially enjoy it when someone slips on a banana peel. Bob, my dog friend, loves TV almost as much as I do. He prefers to watch professional bowling and cat food commercials. Bob and I have seen many romance movies too. In romance, there is much hugging and sometimes face licking. I have yet to see a single romance starring a gorilla. We also enjoy old Western movies. In a Western, someone always says, "Well, this town ain't big enough for the both of us, Sheriff." And in a Western, you can tell who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, and the good guys always win. Bob says Westerns are nothing like real life. So we don't know Bob yet. We haven't met him. We've only heard what Ivan says about him. But we learn a lot here, don't we? If you think about it, we learn a lot about Bob's perspective on the world. And Bob says Westerns are nothing like real life. And if in Westerns the good guys always win, what does that tell you about Bob's perspective? He doesn't have a very positive perspective on life, does he? So the next question you should be asking is why, and we'll read to find out why. But why does Bob think that in life the good guys don't win? Makes me kind of sad for Bob. Okay, the nature show, next chapter. Now, I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pencil, maybe if not right now, right after this, because I'm gonna give you a challenge, a math problem challenge based on this next chapter. It's called the nature show. I have been in my domain for 9,855 days alone. For a while, when I was young and foolish, I thought I was the last gorilla on Earth. I tried not to dwell on it. Still, it's hard to stay upbeat when you think there are no more of you. Then one night, after I watched a movie about men in black hats with guns and feeble-minded horses, a different show came on. It was not a cartoon, not a romance, and not a Western. I saw a lush forest. I heard birds murmuring, and the grass moved. The trees rustled, and then I saw him. He was a bit threadbare and scrawny and not as good looking as I am, to be honest. But sure enough, he was a gorilla. As suddenly as he appeared, the gorilla vanished, and in his place was a scruffy white animal called, I learned, a polar bear, and then a chubby water creature called a manatee, and then another animal, and then another. All night I sat wondering about that gorilla that I had glimpsed. Where did he live? Would he ever come to visit? If there was a he somewhere, could there be a she as well? Or was it just the two of us in all the world, trapped in our own separate boxes? And so the question that I want you to think about is how long Ivan has been in his domain. And he says he's been in his domain for 9,855 days. I'm going to show this to you in the screen here. Oops, there we go. And what I want you to do is figure out how many years Ivan has been at the Big Top Mall and Video Arcade. The other thing you need to know are how many days in a year. And you guys know that there are 365 days in 1 year. Now I know, even though you are very clever third graders, we have not learned how to divide 365 into 9,855. But here's what you do know how to do. You know how to add numbers all the way into the hundreds of thousands. So I want you to figure out how many 365s, how many groups of 365 there are in 9,855. So pause this video, write these numbers down, and that's your challenge math. Okay, and it is an extension. Don't get stressed out about it, but because it'll take a while to add all those numbers. But I want you to do the work. It's good. You are going to be very surprised how long Ivan has been in his domain. So I can't wait to see you next time. See you soon.